Ali, good to see you again. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Alive and kicking, thanks. So, just for our audience to get a feel of who you are and what you've been doing, would you mind telling us how did you get into real estate?
I guess before I became a real estate broker, I was already purchasing and selling real estate myself, investing in real estate. And that's how I got to know more about real estate investing and know more the process of buying and selling. And I figured this is really interesting. And just I was really drawn into it.
Is there something specific about it that drew you into it, such as maybe the returns?
Oh, that definitely is a huge one. It's definitely a huge one.
Right.
Yeah. And you know what, like I just personally, I really enjoy looking at numbers like market analysis and look at, oh, this area is appreciating a certain percentage, another area is appreciating maybe a different percentage, what is return? And it's really, really, I don't know what it is, just it gets me excited.
Fantastic. It makes
Yeah,
sense, obviously, especially where you're seeing high returns compared to a market that's much more difficult to analyze, such as stock markets, futures, right? Or crypto for
absolutely.
that matter. Crypto is
Yeah.
becoming the new hype, and there are NFTs out there that are attracting a lot of attention and seem to sell for quite a bit of money.
I personally enjoy driving down a street and seeing, hey, that's my investment property, or that's my
Yeah,
client's investment property.
right.
Popping in, say hi to the tenants. Like there's certain satisfaction to that.
Beautiful. Right. So you're more
Yeah.
relationship centered, and that makes a difference in seeing how your investments not only pay off in a financial way, but also in a social way.
Yeah, yeah.
I
And it's more
understand.
tangible too. Yeah. Now a
That's
question for
awesome.
you, Eddie. Like,
Go ahead.
what made you get into mortgage?
Well, I sort of fell into this by a natural course. I worked for B2B Bank for a while, and I had an interesting conversation with the president at the time, François Desjardins,
Okay.
who explained to me that it's a lot of fun to have people in your employ, and it does motivate the why. And as he had 3,200 people in his employ, he explained to me that with great power comes great responsibility. And so I live by that. Was the only solution at the time because I have access to so many lenders rather than working for a single institution.
To help people to build their wealth and change portion of their active income to become a passive income and see how they can grow their wealth with time was really like pretty minimum effort, and that's really, really powerful.
It's empowering. And you're seeing people
Yes.
go from one stage of their life to a different, more improved stage of their life. And being there alongside for their growth, it makes you sort of be part of their close circle.
Absolutely. I think that's also a huge why for me too. Like we were saying, be alongside the people who, and you see their growth, you see them coming like a long way, and then being in one financial position and improve, being more comfortable and build more wealth for their generation, for their future generation too. Like it's really it's really rewarding.
It is. I personally couldn't see myself doing anything else.
Yeah.
Yes, I
Yeah.
found, and it took me a long time. They say, I, I, I don't know if this is part of your generation, but my generation deals a lot with this idea of find your passion, go for it, follow what your heart tells you to do, and it's difficult to find that out. It took me quite a while to. I jumped from job to job to job to job in order to discover that. Wait a second, what I need to do is broker. I need to create relations between people for them to be able to. So find someone with a need and someone with exactly what they need, and be able to connect them in a way in which both sides are satisfied. Ali, since we're talking about possibilities and we're going into a little bit of the creative side, would you mind sharing with us what your favorite quote is? Do you have a favorite quote?
Mm, I have lots of quote that I love. If I have to pick one that is my favorite, I guess it would be, let's see if you heard of this one. Learn as if you will live forever and live like you will die tomorrow.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's
I
strong.
personally really like it. It is strong,
Okay.
right? It's
Yes.
by Gandhi.
Beautiful. Okay, tell me about the last time you either read this or it came to mind, or when you used it.
I'm not gonna lie, I have it on my um is it called desktop, like the background?
Yes.
Yeah. And I mean, there's, especially in the last 2 years, right? It has been challenging for most people. And there's times you just like think to yourself, like, oh, I'm losing track of what I want to do. I'm losing track of like, or I'm losing uh, I'm losing joy, right? Because there's a lot of time we're in lockdown, we can't go out, we can't do a lot of this stuff. Then when you look at this and you realize, well, if this was my last day, what would I do? Would I still waste this time like worried about, oh, I can't go out, can't eat, can't go to the gym, can't do this lot of stuff? No, we'll focus on what's the most important things. Just it helps to to change the mindset and bring your focus to the most important things and your priorities.
Well said. Well said. And you know what? You touched up on something that I've developed as a principle throughout the years. I consider myself a winner. I came across, I think it was Ray Bradbury who said this. Use win, the word win, as an acronym. So it's WIN, standing for what's important now.
Yeah.
So I ask myself that question whenever I'm dealing with a difficult decision. I ask myself, what's important now? And then I break it down into steps and take action. That's the most important thing. If you don't take action right away, it's going to be very difficult. But if you take action, it becomes more and more believable that the end goal is achievable.
Absolutely. And probably the first step is the most challenging. But once you get the ball rolling, then everything else just come naturally.
Falls into place. Yes, I agree.
Yeah, yeah. I was trying to think there was a saying that I heard like, so don't wait until you feel something to act until you can feel it.
Ooh, I
Like,
like that. You know what? I'm gonna write that down. I have a notebook right here. It's my little journal.
yeah.
That's fantastic. Wow. Wow. See, it's like already I know when I find a piece of gold, I want to keep it. I'm like, I'm treasuring this. So I'm gonna keep it with myself forever. Let it appreciate over time, grow roots and sprout.
Yeah, I guess let me ask you a few questions. I would really like to hear from what you have experienced, what you've seen so far. I mean, we're in the third week of January, and so far, like, what are you observing in the market?
Given there's a limited number of properties out on the market, we're seeing more refinances and renewals where people are taking money out of their properties, taking equity out, and it's not necessarily going back into purchasing other properties. So they're taking it out for investments. There are many people switching over to cryptocurrencies or NFTs, as we're talking about, and financing different projects they have. Some of them spend time renovating, some of them improve their cars. Um, there's not much to do out there, so obviously spending time in the garage, I'm guilty of that myself. Um, it becomes a hobby. It becomes a bonding activity with family members, with friends, and so yeah, I've been seeing plenty of that.
There are a large number of people that are, coming in for refinancing and maybe taking some equity out of their mortgage. And it's really smart to do it because right now, what the inflation rate for December last year was like 5%.
Well, we can feel it. We can feel it in gas
Yeah.
prices and food prices and beverage costs. It's pretty much all over. And when it comes to interest rates, I find that if you compare that to inflation, you're coming out on top.
You're actually making money by
Yeah,
borrowing money.
yeah.
Yeah. What is a quick way to make 3-4% on a large amount of money? Well, take equity out of the home.
Yes, taking equity out of a home is a great way of making 3 to 4%. And sometimes it makes a huge difference for those who have not been serviced well in the past. And we've seen interest rates that went into the 6%, 7%. Being able to switch them into a lower interest rate saves them a ton of money.
Well, I mean, just from what I observe in the marketplace, right? Like a lot of people want to get into the market, whether they're first-time buyers or investors. People see the real estate appreciating at such a phenomenal rate, and they want to be a part of that. So, like, what would be your suggestion for them in terms of mortgage? Like, how can they basically benefit from right now the low interest rate, the market appreciation, and so on and so forth?
That's a great question. If I was to be in their shoes, what I would do is I would lower my expectations, first of all. Obviously, it's going to be very difficult to find a property within a major metropolitan area, such as the GTA. Even around the GTA in Mississauga, Oakville, Ajax, Pickering, prices are booming, right? So lowering my expectations and moving further away from the city to be able to afford something that's lower cost, but spending time on the road to be able to grow in one way or another. I'd be listening to podcasts, audiobooks, making the most of my time, and maybe getting some renters in to help me pay that mortgage down.
And what about in terms of on the mortgage side?
It's curious. I've seen people who wanted to buy condos. They are looking at co-ops and co-ownerships. So registering the borrowers to a title, it doesn't work in the way of a title. They actually own shares of the condo corporation.
Right.
And most lenders stay away from that. So whenever borrowers make an application for co-ownership, what happens is that they would end up paying a higher interest rate, mainly because the lenders are not willing to take on the extra risk associated with the lower liquidity of shares as compared to the higher liquidity of a title. That makes sense?
Yeah, that's true. With the market condition being so tight, like there was such a low inventory on the market, a lot of people who are kind of forced to look into alternatives, right? Before, co-op and co-ownership type of homes they're taking longer to sell. They're less in demand because of the challenge with getting mortgage, and just the whole structure of ownership is completely different. But yeah, you're absolutely right. The people are kind of the buyers these days are kind of forced to look at that option, because that might be the only things that are left that are still within their budget. And I've seen people who are getting into these type of ownerships without knowing or understanding it fully. So I guess, if anything, for buyers, it's so much more important that right now they need to be fully educated. They need to be fully informed before making a decision. They got to know what they're getting into, especially when the market is so tight. Yeah.
Okay, so here's a question for you. What are you seeing in the market?
So what I've seen in the market is this year, I mean, typically in the springtime, especially in January, the inventory has typically been very, very low. But this year in particular, for January, the first few weeks, we've seen inventory like half of what usually is on the market this time of the year. We don't see less buyers out there. So it's just creating even stronger competition for the same home. So the imbalance between the supply and demand is even stronger. And lately, there has been a lot of talk about a few properties sold in Oakville. Then it just kind of blew everybody's mind. There's one single garage type of home, detached home, with only about 2,400 square feet. Okay, and typically, if we were to talk about in last year, at the end of the year, it would have got maybe like 1.6, 1.7. But this year, just last week, is sold for over 2 million. So everybody's talking about, like, it's blowing everybody's mind.
Right. People are just looking to get into the market at whatever cost. And there are big, deep pockets that are coming into the market and just weeding out the small pockets, so to say.
Yeah. And like a lot of people are also complaining, like, oh, real estate is appreciating like what, 25% per year? Like, that's crazy. But at the same time, if the inflation is 5%, which means the actual growth for real estate is only 20%, because the other 5% is from inflation.
It's still much higher than the previous years, though, where it averaged about 8% per year. So I could understand why there's so much commotion and there's so much stress around this idea of, when's this bubble going to burst? What's happening with the interest rates? Where are we going from here?
Do you really think we're in a real estate bubble? That's a loaded question.
Oh, that is a loaded question. I don't know if I want to answer that.
I would argue that not like the real estate market is appreciating at a very phenomenal rate, not just in Canada, not just in the GTA, but all over the world. I mean, like for us, like in the GTA area, we're in a landlocked. So south of us is the water, north of us is the escarpment, can't build there. And everybody want to be where the jobs are. So if they're opening like 400,000 immigration per year, with the majority coming into the GTA area, because this is where educational resource and jobs are, supply is less than demand. Like, that is the fundamental reason.
All right, Ali, thank you very much for joining me today. And I look forward to having you on here next month.
Thank you. And thank you for having me.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Bye. If you're uncomfortable enough times, you'll be comfortable at the uncomfortable situation.